Hi students, happy asynchronous Wednesday. I hope you're having a good day so far. I'm coming to you from the past. I haven't experienced Wednesday yet, but I hear it's supposed to be about 80 degrees, so I hope it's nice out. So the purpose of this video is to show you how to structure your research paper or how to build it. So I'll go over your introduction paragraph, the body paragraphs, and the conclusion. And I'll talk a little bit about in-text citations. So you should have watched this, a different Edpuzzle on in-text citations. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but we're also going to talk a lot more about it tomorrow in class. So the whole point of this video is knowing how to structure your paper. So I'll start with the introduction. Just like any other essay, this should be the very first paragraph. It should be about 3 to 5 sentences. The first sentence should be a general statement about your topic, just explaining to the reader what exactly your topic is and maybe giving them some background information about it. And then your very last sentence in your introduction paragraph has to be your thesis statement. So most of you have already written this. You can go back to where you submitted it, and you'll see that I left you a private comment giving you the thesis statement that you submitted in the Google form. And I might have given you some feedback too. So you can go back to that to look at your thesis statement and then include that as the last sentence in your introduction paragraph. So this is an example of an introduction from a student from last year. So she also wrote a research paper on climate change. She decided to write about the extinction of plants and animals. So she wrote, "Climate change, or a long-term shift in global climate patterns, is real. But what does that mean for our Earth? The devastating effects of climate change are not an enemy to only one. Not only will the human population be affected, but plant and animal species as well. The continued rising of Earth's maximum annual temperature only further proves to researchers that unless something is done, there will be no saving the precious creatures that roam the Earth. By the year 2070, a third of the plant and animal species around the globe will become extinct due to global warming. But humans can still solve this global problem by reducing greenhouse gas emissions." So that is a solid introduction paragraph because the first couple sentences, she explains what her topic is and gives some background information on it. And then the very last sentence that's highlighted is her thesis statement, right where it should be. So I'll move on to your body paragraphs. So for your research paper, you should be writing one paragraph for each point that you want to make about your topic. So you have to think of a couple points to support your claim or your thesis statement, and for each of those points, write a body paragraph for it. And for each of these body paragraphs, you should start it with a topic sentence that expresses the main idea of the paragraph, your whole point that you're trying to make. So if we think back to the example introduction paragraph I showed you, that student was writing about the extinction of plants and animals and how human beings can solve this problem of climate change. So for her, she chose to write about 3 different points. So she made 3 different body paragraphs. So for her first body paragraph, she wrote about how climate change affects plants. That's one point. Her second body paragraph talked about how climate change affects animals. That's another point. And then her third and final body paragraph was about how we can solve this issue of climate change. So that's her third and final point. So here is one of her body paragraphs. It's the one about how we as human beings can solve this problem. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. I'll just draw your attention to the first sentence. So she says, "In order for our plant and animal species to survive, we must decrease the annual global temperature by upholding the Paris Climate Agreement." So that is her topic sentence. It clearly states what she intends to talk about in this paragraph. And if you notice, there's 2 instances in yellow where she uses direct quotes or in-text citations. So let me talk about that for a minute. So just to jog your memory, in-text citations are a way for you to tell your reader where you got your information from and to give credit where credit is due. So you'll use in-text citations each time you quote, if you use a direct quote just like she did, or if you paraphrase, meaning you take information from the source that you found and you put it into your own words. So for both of those instances, you'll use in-text citations to show where you got your information from. So for your paper, I'd like you to use at least 5 in-text citations. These can be either direct quotes or paraphrases, or you can use a mixture of both. And I have to apologize to you because I did not include this in the assignment sheet when I originally assigned the paper to you. So I will update the assignment sheet so it clearly states how many in-text citations I'd like you to use. So each of these in-text citations should be properly cited. I know with in-text citations, sometimes it can be a little tricky if you have exceptional situations. Some rules may apply differently, but for the most part, to cite, what you'll have to do is at the end of the sentence where you either paraphrased or included a direct quote, you'll put in parentheses the author's name if your source does have an author. If it doesn't, instead, you would put the title of the work. And then next to that, you'd put the page number if your source does have pages, just to show where exactly you got this information from. So I gave you 2 examples. The first one is a direct quote. So it's in quotation marks, and then after the quote, you'll put in parentheses the author, and this source does have one. The last name is Smith. And then the page number, it was found on page 8. And then after the end parentheses, you'd put a period. So for the second example, this is a paraphrased in-text citation. So it's not in quotes, but still at the end of the sentence before the period, you would put in parentheses the author if it has one. If not, you'd put the title. And then the page number you found it on if it does have different pages. So again, like I was saying earlier, sometimes in-text citations could be tricky and you have to use special exceptions or rules when using the in-text citations. So if you're not sure how to cite something, you can look at something I made for you called the citing cheat sheet. So I'll show you where that is, where you can find it. So if you go to your Google Classroom and you go to week number 32 this week, you can go down to MLA Formatting Tools, and then you'll see a link to the citing cheat sheet. So I won't go through the whole thing with you, but it gives you different exceptional citing situations that you might run into that aren't as common. And it tells you what you can do, and it gives you an example. So I'll go over the last one that's on here because it probably applies to a lot of you. So the citing situation is that you have a source that has no author and you're not sure how to cite it. So what you would do is in the parentheticals, instead of writing the author's name, you would put the title of the source. So for the example you see on the right, we have a paraphrased in-text citation. And then in the parentheses, we have the name of the article. So the name was just steroids. So you'd put it in quotes and then the page number. So that is just one citing situation. There are others here, like if there's a source that has more than 3 authors or a source that has 2 or 3 authors. What do you do if you cite something or more than one source by the same author? What do you do if you say the name of the author in your sentence? It goes over different uncommon citing situations if you're ever confused on how to cite. So you can look at that sheet, the cheat sheet, or you can always ask me if you have questions. So finally, I'll talk about the conclusion paragraph. So your conclusion should be short, sweet, and to the point. It only needs to be 2 or 3 sentences. The first sentence, you'll repeat what you wrote in your thesis statement. And then the second and possibly third sentence, you'll write about your opinion, understanding, or thoughts about your topic. So this is the same student's conclusion paragraph. She restated her thesis in the first sentence. Without change, 1/3 of the plant and animal species that roam and thrive on the earth will be extinct. And then the next 2 pages, she gives her thoughts and opinions about this topic. The disastrous results of climate change will impact the earth for eternity, but humans can change the fate of plants and animals by reducing the global temperature and greenhouse gas emissions. So the first sentence, she restates her thesis statement, and then the next 2 sentences, she explains her thoughts about it. So that's how you would do the conclusion paragraph. I hope this video was helpful for you in understanding how to structure your paper. If you do have any questions, you can always ask me. I'll include these slides in the Google Classroom so you can look back at it when you're writing your paper if you need to. But other than that, I'll see you guys on Thursday.